This team is the real deal. This team is the king of the NFC North. And what they've shown us the last 2 times that they've gone into Lambeau, they're there to take out the team that's led the NFC North for the last few decades and do it on their home turf.
If you haven't seen the Lions, now you have, and the rest of the NFC has to be a little nervous there.
This was a blowout. This was ugly. Their O-line, top 3 or 4 in the NFL. What you're seeing with Detroit, and this is what good businesses do and good teams do. They had a vision, and they're patiently putting it together. They started last year 1-6, lost a lot of close games. Then they won a few close games, and now here they are.
You know, you guys, I'm just going to get straight into it at this point because with everything we've seen so far from the Detroit Lions through the first 4 weeks, they honestly look to be one of the best teams in the NFL. Whether you want to talk about the defense improving more and more as the season has gone on, or the offense dominating every team they play, this team can seriously do it all. But what's crazy about this, and I think most Lions fans would agree with me when I say this, the Lions still have come nowhere close to their ultimate ceiling. But with Jameson Williams being able to come back early now from his suspension, we should begin to see them get closer and closer to their full potential and become the complete team that we know they can be. But before we get into that, if you like content just like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos throughout the entirety of the NFL season. Okay, so to get back on topic with the Detroit Lions, whether we want to take a look at the fact that they're top 10 in points per game, top 10 in rushing yards per game, top 10 in passing yards per game, or 7th in total yards per game, this shows that they're easily one of the most dominant and explosive offenses in the league. But regardless of all the talent the Lions have on this offense, the success of this team is ultimately going to come down to this guy right here. Jared Goff has gotten a lot of flack in the past for being a mediocre game manager, but last year and already this year, he's proving all of those people wrong once again. Whether you want to talk about the fact that he's top 10 in yards per game, top 10 in completion percentage, or just the fact that he's top 6 in QBR, it proves just how good he's already been playing this season. He does a great job at operating this high-powered offense, and Ben Johnson does a great job at constantly scheming people wide open. Whether it's using quick motion or reverse, Ben Johnson is constantly being creative with the way he gets the ball into his playmakers' hands. But even with all the success they've had, what's crazy is that this offense is about to get even better. The Detroit Lions heading into this season were projected to be one of the best offenses in the league, and so far they've been able to live up to that projection without Jameson Williams on the field. Amon Ra St. Brown has been doing what he always does, and Ben Johnson has done a great job at getting him into mismatches, and then the rookie addition in Sam Laporta has also had a huge positive impact on this offense as well. He's honestly playing like a seasoned veteran at this point, and it looks like the decision to trade away Hutchinson was the right one to make. Sam Laporta is already one of the best tight ends in the league after the catch, and he's honestly just as good at the catching point. So with him and Amon Ra, this offense would already be pretty solid, but they have a ton more on top of those two guys. Josh Reynolds has been playing great as a receiver 2 in this offense, while Jameson has been out, and we haven't even talked about the fact that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been playing amazing in the running game. The rushing attack was a big question mark heading into the season with the addition of David Montgomery and the drafting of Jahmyr Gibbs this offseason, but just like everything else on this offense, it's proved itself to be pretty elite. David Montgomery is doing a great job at being the workhorse back and taking on the majority of the carries to soften up the defense, while Jahmyr Gibbs, on the other hand, is a perfect switch up to give the defense trouble with some speed. This is shown by the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs is top 10 in rushing efficiency out of all backs with at least 34 carries. Now, the only thing I would change about the run game, though, is that the Lions could possibly use Jahmyr Gibbs a little more because of how successful he's been able to be in his limited attempts. I mean, I know you want to save his best for down the stretch, but he can be a huge component to a lot of your wins this season if you let him be. Now, we can't forget that the biggest reason for why the Lions have been able to have so much success is this offensive line. I mean, this offensive line was projected to be a top 5 offensive line in the league, and to be completely honest with you, they have easily lived up to that projection. They are constantly giving Jared Goff time to throw, and they also constantly give both running backs huge running lanes to run through. So even though the offense is extremely talented in the skill positions, the offensive line is what holds everything together. So this offense for 2 years in a row now has been one of the most dominant units in all of football, and we haven't even seen them hit their peak yet. Jameson Williams being able to come back early is huge, and it gives the Lions the true deep threat that they need. The offense will now have the ability to attack deep areas of the field to Jameson, attack the mid to short areas of the field with Amon Ra and Sam Laporta, and then also, on top of that, be able to run the ball at will against any team they want. And when you have Ben Johnson calling your plays, you can go ahead and 10x the effectiveness that an offense like this would normally have, which is just insane to think about. Now, the part of this team that had the most question marks heading into this season was easily the defense, but this year, and specifically in these past 2 games, it has looked like it has the potential to be one of the best units in football. In the last 2 games, the Lions defense has allowed just 13 points on average, and if we're being completely honest with ourselves, some of those points in the Packers game came in garbage time when the Lions were being extremely conservative, just trying to guarantee themselves a win. On top of not allowing many points though, the biggest thing that I've noticed from this team is their extremely dominant defensive line. The defensive line in the past 2 games alone has 52 total pressures and 12 sacks, which is absolute insanity. Of course, this all starts with the way Aiden Hutchinson has been able to play, because he played great in his rookie season, but this year through the first 4 games, he already looks even better. We've also seen Aleem McNeil begin to start showing out, and he's contributed to a lot of the success we've seen the Lions have, not only in the pass rush, but also against the run. And then on top of those 2 guys, we've also been able to see John Kaminsky, Charles Harris, Isaiah Buggs, and James Houston all make some key plays as well, which just shows how good this defensive line is as an overall unit. But the bigger question heading into this season wasn't the D-line as much as it was the secondary figuring out how to be more effective against the pass, and the answer to that question about them being more effective against the pass is an astounding yes. With the addition of guys like Cam Sutton, Brian Branch, and CJ Gardner-Johnson, we've seen this secondary playing completely different in a good way. For the most part, we haven't seen many receivers dominate them like they did last year, and they've done a great job at limiting every team's passing attack. And then, of course, you can't forget to mention that on top of the dominance in the passing attack, they've also been just as suffocating against every run game they've played against, being a top 5 team in not only rushing efficiency allowed, but also top 5 in rushing yards allowed per game. So when you consider that this defense is only going to get better and better throughout the entirety of the season, and the fact that the offense is about to get Jameson Williams back, and they've already been able to be a top 5 unit in the NFL without him, I would say that this team pretty confidently has just as good of a chance to go all the way as any other team. But I'm curious to know how you guys feel about the Detroit Lions on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball, so let me know in the comments below. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one.